So, well, in person, I never have any issues ever in person traveling around doing that. Now, doing podcasts and stuff like that. So, actually, it's interesting, especially when you look at the pronoun stuff. So, Colin Wright last week did an amazing. He like did a symposium on his on the Reality's Last Stand Substack, where he had I think 8 people from all over the spectrum, even had a radical leftist on there to give their ideas of pronoun use, and it was vastly different, so I would definitely go check that out because it's titled "The Pronoun Throwdown," and you had a whole issue, you had the radical feminist who said, "Absolutely don't ever use them," preferred pronouns, and then you had the leftist who said, always use them. It's not kind to not use them and all this stuff. And then you had a whole bunch of nuance in between. I've only ever had it happen one time on stream, and it happened on Megan Fox's channel a couple weeks ago. I had a debate with a turf, and she was one that just wanted to be cruel and everything like that. And that's what's interesting is conservatives in general will be are actually the most kind to me, unless you get over to the very far, like, QAnon types. Conservatives in general are the most accepting and usually are the most, welcoming to me. When you talk about, like, Meghan Murphy and other radical feminists, they tend to attack me a lot for a multitude of reasons, and that is kinda how they attack. It's because you gotta remember, they come from the left. They come from they're actually still third wave feminist who we've seen through the years as being kind of the crazy radical feminists. And the only thing that makes them different from the fourth wave feminists, or the only thing that makes them different, is that they won't go along with fourth wave feminism, which goes to gender identity instead of sex. And so they're still in that mindset that, a lot of times man hating feminist. And so they don't like me because they would consider me a man, and they would be cruel just in that regard as well. This is what I get all the time, and you probably get some of this too from your work. It's like people would say they try to tell me that I can't work to protect children because I can't fight against an ideology, because simply by existing as who I am, that I'm promoting the ideology just by existing.
Yeah.
And so that's where a lot of those people are, is where a lot of conservatives, they go, well, I'd rather have you in this fight because you've been through this and you're actually warning people, so your voice is uniquely needed.
Yeah, it's really unfair. I mean, you nailed it on the head. It's simply by existing that you're advocating for some kind of lifestyle, and it's like absolutely not. And
Yeah.
just because I call myself kind of like a cowboy. Like I live on the outskirts of society and that's where I'm comfortable. That's where I
Mhm.
thrive and that's true for me. That's not true for most people, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with either of those things. I think it's also assuming that people like you and I don't know what's appropriate around children, and that's pretty
Yeah.
crazy to me because it wasn't that long ago that if you were a gay man, you couldn't be a teacher because they automatically assumed you were going to be a predator, and that was so heinous. That's so heinous to
Yeah.
make that assumption, and I think that that idea hasn't really gone away, it's just evolved, so now it's not necessarily, you can't be a gay man around children, now it's you can't have an OnlyFans and be around children, now you can't be a trans person and be around children, um and to kind of automatically connect those dots, I think is perverse in and of itself. And I think
Yep.
that, a lot of us want the right thing. A lot of us want to protect the youth, and a lot of us have a very unique vantage point. So I think that we're absolutely able to speak on certain topics. I mean, I have 2 children,
Yeah.
and I'm just waiting for the day where, I kind of am forced out of my closet, my proverbial closet. And I know it's going to be awful. And I know it's going to be a lot of heartbreak for me because of the decisions I've made. And do you have children or?
I don't.
No.
I
Well,
don't.
if you ever do, it's probably gonna be similar as well, right? You're gonna have to deal with some hateful people and, knowing that you're kind of the center of that attention is heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Um, but at the end of the
Well,
day. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I saw and I think I saw your post the other day or a little while ago, and it was perfect. It's like, don't teach your kids why don't you look at the bully instead of who they're attacking and why they're attacking that person for?
Exactly. It's like we're misguided. We're focused on the one thing that maybe we don't ideologically agree with instead of behavior that's just really not acceptable for anybody. It's not acceptable to tear anybody down even if you disagree with them. Like if you're an adult, you should be able to manage your emotions and, debate things in the arena of opposing opinions, but not to, take someone's character down or try to hurt feelings. Like I wholeheartedly
Yeah.
disagree with that.
And unfortunately, that's where we are as a society, and this is something that social media has kind of promoted, is one, you don't see the person on the other side of that screen,
Mhm.
as an actual human being, you're just seeing words on a screen.
Mhm.
And then the other thing is we've kind of lost some of our humanity, in regards to it. And so yeah, it's become kind of a danger to society and being so open and you're so readily available to attack anybody that's out there speaking something that you don't agree with. And then Twitter in and of itself, you only get, so many characters to say what you want. And so it's really hard to put nuance into what you say. And these days nobody wants to hear the nuance. They just see like your main point or they read into your comments or what you do, you know, instead of actually listening to you. And like I said, I mean, we can have conversations about this stuff all day. We have differences, but in today's society, you can't have differences without being attacked for those differences.
100%. You had mentioned the word TERF earlier. So, for anyone that doesn't know, that's trans exclusionary radical feminist. So, that is one of those other words that gets thrown around all of the time, loosey goosey, as a pejorative. So, when it comes to that, because I think that there are women like Megan Murphy who I would put in there, right? Like, just like, in
Yep.
my opinion, a
Well, and they're
disrespectful.
claiming it now.
Oh,
They're
they
claiming
are.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Like that's what when I used it towards the person that I used it towards, she labeled herself in the interview as a turf.
Oh, so okay. That's really interesting.